चलता है, फिर मैं आपको होने के बाद good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, sir.
Actually, madam will be taking your lecture tomorrow now. I just had a talk with her, so she will be taking it tomorrow. So I thought I'll engage this class. I think only a small portion in unit 3, I suppose, remains in madam's lecture. Do I need to, inform everyone, or they will join now? Richa?
Sir, they will join, I guess, because they do join for Divya ma'am's lecture. So,
ठीक है, ठीक है. Then it is fine. Then it is fine. Okay, till they join, I'll just start to share my screen also. Acha, we had finished till, I suppose, slide number 42, factors affecting resolution. We had completed this, right? Van Dienter equation, and then the factors, related factors, which affect resolution. I suppose we did this, and then we also did this simple numerical. How can we, we can get some idea about the column length and for a given resolution based on the separation factor, right? So I'll just move ahead now. Now the first technique which comes here is thin layer chromatography. My screen is visible, I suppose.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Any queries up till now, if anybody has? No. Okay. As such, there are very few today. I mean, there are only 18. Fine, no problem. So I'll just move on to the next part, and that is, this is the first technique which you have in this unit by the name thin layer chromatography. Now, even in BSc, possibly you have done some experiments on thin layer chromatography, I suppose. This is classified as a planar chromatographic technique, and it is now, a very age-old technique. But the most important aspect of thin layer chromatography is that despite all its limitations, this technique is still in use even today. Of course, with some modifications, but it is still very much there, and we use this in our labs because this is relatively very simple technique, inexpensive technique, and it doesn't require too many things. So this is still in use, and it has certain distinct advantages which prompt its use on daily basis in our labs, even in our synthetic labs, our analytical labs. So it still has very wide application. Now there are I have identified four major application areas for TLC. We all know that it can do separation. That is fine. Thin layer chromatography as such is not used for quantitative analysis, for qualitative analysis. So one thing is clear, that thin layer is used for qualitative analysis. Of course, its higher version, or which is known as high performance thin layer chromatography, is being used for quantitative purpose. So this is exclusively used for qualitative analysis. Now the application areas include identification of compounds of mixture using appropriate standards. This is something which we expect from any chromatographic technique. Resolution of different components in a given mixture, and their identity can be ascertained by, of course, having appropriate suitable reference standard substances. So again, as I said in the earlier, that chromatography does not give you which analytes are present in your given sample. So likewise, in thin layer chromatography, you cannot come to know whether these components are present. You can come to know the number of components which are present, which have been separated, but not their identity. So identity has to be ascertained only through known, compounds, reference substances. Okay. The second thing is, it is useful. Now this is important. It is useful to monitor the course of a reaction. That means when you carry out a chemical reaction for a certain period of time, say for example 1 hour or 2 hours or 3 hours, any chemical reaction which you carry out, to monitor the progress of the reaction. This is very important. To monitor the progress of the reaction, you need to do continuous thin layer chromatographic analysis by taking very small volumes of your solution mixture and then doing this TLC on a simple plates which are now commercially available, to know how much is the reactant consumed and to what extent the products have started to form. So it monitors the course of a chemical reaction. And the second most important thing which can be associated with thin layer chromatography is that it is very useful when we do conventional column chromatography. Now when I say column chromatography, please don't confuse it with the columns which you use in HPLC or GC or GPC or any other technique. This column chromatography which I have mentioned here has nothing to do with these columns, with these techniques. Column chromatography is a technique which is used essentially by synthetic organic chemists who try to purify their reaction mixture using column chromatography. In column chromatography, you have a column just like this thing. If you have seen a burette, you fill it with silica of definite mesh size or particle size in a column, which could be as simple as a burette, and then you pass your reaction mixture, once you have completed a given chemical reaction, through this column and try to isolate or separate your product in presence of other things which are present in your final mixture. And what it tells you is, what TLC does is, you can continuously monitor the eluate which comes out from this column through TLC and see when you start to get your product. Because when there are 2-3 components in the final reaction mixture, what you do is you do your TLC continuously for all the fractions. Fractions, when I say fractions, means you can collect 2 ml or 3 ml and then do the TLC. Collect the next 3 ml, do again the TLC. Collect again the next 3 ml, so on and so forth. Because this is a very column chromatography is a very, I would say, very time consuming, but the results are very good. All synthetic products which are synthesized in a lab have to undergo column chromatographic separation. Without this, there is very little option with an organic chemist specifically to purify that compound. And in checking this, in monitoring this, in which fraction your product has started to come, that is done by TLC. I hope you understand this. And Fourth one, analyzing the purity of the compound. Of course, these two are linked. So what I would say is the two most important uses of thin layer chromatography is to monitor the course of a chemical reaction. And once the reaction is over, you want to collect your product in the highest purified form, then you need to do continuous thin layer chromatography from the eluate which comes out from column chromatography. So that is what is uh, uh, your thin layer chromatography used or finds application. Now, as I said, in any chromatography, there has to be a distribution, there has to be a partition of your analyte between the stationary phase, which is the adsorbent, which is silica. By and large, silica. I mean, you hardly come across any other material as a stationary phase in thin layer chromatography, because all commercially available TLC plates have silica as your stationary phase, and a solvent system which flows through the adsorbent. So in TLC, as we just came to know, it separates the analytes based on differential, again partitioning between the stationary phase which is adsorbed on a planar surface and the solvent which moves or which flows through this adsorbent in a partially closed, you can say, atmosphere, in a partially closed system. As the mobile phase rises up the TLC plate by capillary action, the mobile phase rises up through capillary action. The components dissolve in the solvent and move up the plate. That means when the solvent moves up, it dissolves those analytes in itself, and then it tries to take it along, moving against the gravity. There is a very big difference between thin layer chromatography and column chromatography if you compare, because both have silica as the stationary phase, but one works against the gravity. That means the components move up against the gravity, but in column chromatography they come down with the gravity. So there is a very striking difference in the how the solvent or the moving phase moves. In one case it moves from bottom to top, and in the other you from top to bottom. So that is how they are different, and that is why these two techniques are different, and they have a different set of solvent systems as well, because you don't want that everything should come down together in column chromatography. It should be separated. It should selectively adsorb on the stationary phase. So in TLC, everything is done against the gravity. Individual components move at different rates. Naturally, they will move at different rates because they have different affinity towards the stationary phase. And this affinity in chemical terms is called as, or is understood as, the intermolecular forces which act between the components and the stationary phase material, which is silica, that allows separation of analytes using a given mobile phase. Mobile phase, as you know, can be anything, but it should be a single phase. So it can be aqueous, it can be organic, it can be aqueous organic, it can take in small amounts of acid, acetic acid, it can take small amounts of alkali, ammonia as well. So there is a wide choice of mobile phase which is available with TLC, but you have restriction in the use of the stationary phase, which is silica. Now you find different materials, but all silica based, modified silica, basically modified silica. The main contention is, since we know that silica is highly polar, silica is highly polar. So all modifications which have been done on silica, they have been done with a view to decrease the polarity of silica. That is what it is done. So basically there is a partitioning of solutes between the two phases depending upon the type of intermolecular forces acting between the analyte and the stationary phase, which is silica. The principle of distribution process may be based on adsorption, partitioning, ion exchange, or exclusion chromatography. This is a, this is a general, statement where we say that the principle of distribution depends upon any of these techniques, but essentially it is partitioning. Essentially it is partitioning in thin layer chromatography. The stationary phase is silica and is very polar because of the presence of selenoyl groups, SiOH. And this SiOH, it is capable to form strong dipole-dipole and hydrogen bonding interactions with the analytes. And that is how, as you can see, this is a silica particle with the free selenoyl groups. So it will have different intermolecular interactions like hydrogen bonding, donating or accepting, and dipole-dipole interactions as well with the analytes, which flow through with the help of the solvent system, So you have your analytes here, and then you have your stationary phase silica with free selenoyl groups, and then you have the solvent flow from bottom to top. That is how things happen in thin layer chromatography. Now, these things are important. More polar analytes interact more strongly with the stationary phase. This is important. See, if you have polar analytes with you, obviously they will have more interaction with the stationary phase, polar interactions, and therefore they will move very slowly when they move up the TLC plate. By comparison, the mobile phase is relatively non-polar and is capable of interacting with analytes by weaker London forces as well as dipole and hydrogen bonding, which means that, see, what I want to emphasize here is, in thin layer chromatography, when you separate analytes can be polar, they can be non-polar, they can have intermediate polarity as well. Now, what will happen when there are polar analytes? When there are polar analytes, what will happen? They will tend to remain with the stationary phase for a longer period of time. And once they have some strong interactions with the stationary phase, they will move very gradually. They will not move almost with the speed of your mobile phase. So that is how differentiation occurs. When you have polar analytes and non-polar analytes together, it is which one can see that polar analytes are retained below and non-polar analytes are taken up with the mobile phase. Now, this is the next statement, talks about the interaction. By comparison, the mobile phase is relatively non-polar because stationary phase is so polar. That means the mobile phase will be relatively non-polar. It doesn't mean that it is non-polar, because you are using methanol also, which is again polar. You use water, which is very polar, but then you use hexane also, you use ethyl acetate also, and there are many others which you use as the mobile phase, and is capable of interacting with analytes by weaker London forces. What are London forces? London forces are one of the weakest intermolecular forces which you come across in chemical sciences. Similar to the van der Waals forces, London forces, they are so weak that they are able to distort the electron cloud. Just a minute, just a minute. I'll just take one call here. Okay, sorry for the interruption. Now, what are I was talking about London forces. London forces are very weak forces of interactions. They are so weak, they are just able to distort the electron cloud of the neighboring species. They are unable to even see the charge. They are just able to distort the electron cloud, because what is a bond? Bond is an electron. I mean, there is a electron density, but what it does is it cannot substitute those electrons, but it can simply distort that electron cloud which is present, and because of that there is a very weak interaction. And those weak interactions have been observed with mobile phase when it interacts with the analytes and with the analytes. More non-polar analytes interact less strongly with the polar silica phase, and therefore they would remain more with the moving phase, mobile phase, and therefore they move higher up the TLC plate. So one thing is clear: when you see a TLC plate, once it is run, you find some spots above and some spots below. You can very well say that these spots, whatever may be the analyte, they are more polar compared to the other spots which are higher up. So that information one can get from thin layer chromatography. Then the analyte movement ceases. It stops either when the mobile phase reaches one end of the TLC plate or when the TLC plate is removed from the reservoir. Naturally, during development, you allow the mobile phase to run up to a certain distance. It is approximately 1 centimeter below the plate size, 1 centimeter below. Or you can always simply remove the plate once you feel that it has reached up to a certain distance and most of the things have been separated, so one can take out them. This movement of the analyte is now expressed as retention factor, retardation factor, or resolution factor. and it is given by a term called RF. It is represented as RF, which is retention time, retention factor, resolution factor, or even retardation factor. These are the synonymous terms which are used to express the movement of the analyte. In a way, they characterize a particular analyte. Of course, one needs to compare it with a standard. So RF, now what is RF value, how it is calculated, that also I suppose you already have done at some point of time. RF value is the distance moved by the analyte center of the spot, from the center of the spot, from the origin, upon the distance moved by the solvent front from the origin, from the starting line. From the starting line is your origin. So the distance moved by the analyte divided by the distance moved by the solvent would give you a value, a ratio, which you call as retention factor or retardation factor, which is comparable to the retention time which you observe in other chromatographic techniques. And like in other techniques, we need to find out the efficiency of separation in thin layer chromatography as well. And for that, what we do is we find out the number of theoretical plates, which is again given by this formula. N is equal to 16 in bracket dA. dA is the distance moved by the analyte from the origin. There it was retention time. What we understood, what we studied last time was retention time. So here it is the distance moved by the analyte from the origin. And width, W is the width of the spot. This is a spherical spot. So the width of this spot would be the width of the peak, which you understood in your other chromatographic techniques. And the H factor, that is the height equivalent of theoretical plate, is given by the distance traveled by the analyte divided by the number of theoretical plates. So for this thin layer chromatography as well, one can find out the efficiency of separation by calculating the number of theoretical plates, and can also find out the plate height H. Likewise, capacity factor, as I said, which relates to differential or relative rates of migration through the length of the column of the analytes, that factor is given by 1 minus RF divided by RF. So again, there it was TR minus TM upon TM. That was the thing which we found out with other chromatographic techniques. But here in a planar chromatography, the capacity factor K dash is expressed as 1 minus R divided by RF. And here dm is the distance moved by the solvent from the origin, and dA is the distance moved by the analyte from the origin, and that is what is your capacity factor, which is a very this is also known as retention factor sometimes, but here it is mentioned capacity factor. So these are the important terms which one needs to evaluate when one is optimizing a chromatographic experiment, TLC experiment. And these data are to be shown, to be presented along with the whatever application you do, whether you do with your monitoring of chemical reaction or analyzing different fractions coming out from column chromatography. So these are the things which are supposed to be evaluated. Now, as far as the experimental part goes, there are 4 stages in which you carry out TLC. And those 4 stages are sample application, where you apply the sample with the help of a capillary, very narrow bore capillary on the TLC plate, and then you dry that plate. That means you evaporate the solvent part once you spot, and then you put your TLC plate in a developmental chamber, where actually the separation occurs, and once the separation is over, you have taken out your TLC plate from that developing chamber. You allow the solvent to evaporate again, because naturally it will have the solvent system which you have in which you have kept. So you dry it, and then you visualize, you see the spots through different means, but one can always see under the UV light. You can see the spots, and you can see very good fluorescence as well if they start to give fluorescence, those analytes. And then once you have visualized, then you go for interpretation. Interpretation means you find out the retardation factor, you find out the number of theoretical plates, you find out the plate height, you find out the capacity factor. These are the important things which one needs to evaluate in the interpretation of the results. And this is how the TLC development chamber looks like. This is a glass chamber. And you have this TLC plate here. And then up till this point, you have your mobile phase solvent system here. You spot at about 1 to 2 centimeters above the starting point of this plate, one end of the plate, about 1 to 2 centimeters above, so that when you dip it in this chamber containing this mobile phase, the spot should not dip in the moving phase. Otherwise, everything will be dissolved and it will be taken up by the mobile phase. So what you do is you only keep this the level such that these spots are above the level of the mobile phase. So you can have n number of spots here for different samples. The best part of TLC is that there is no prior sample preparation required here. You simply take your sample, spot it on a TLC plate, and see for yourself what happens, because this is relatively inexpensive. It is not as costly as a column. Column costs you, the conventional columns which you see in your HPLC or GC or other techniques, they range from 15-20,000 to 1.5 lakhs. But here, this TLC plate will cost you 50 rupees, 100 rupees. So one can always, go for such analysis. At the same time, what you find here is there is a filter paper, a truncated filter paper here. Now, what is the reason behind keeping this filter paper here? This is generally kept for creating a homogeneous medium of the mobile phase within the chamber. See, because when you take the mobile phase, there should be before you put your TLC plate in this whole chamber should be saturated with your moving phase, and that saturation is done relatively faster by putting a filter paper here, so that your mobile phase can migrate and it spreads faster in this So there should be a complete medium of mobile phase vapor in this region. And then you put your TLC plate inside and then cover the system and then cover the system. So this is what actually happens during developing once you have spotted how you develop in a development chamber in TLC. This is a very, as I said, very simple, inexpensive technique. So this is what I just said, what actually happens in TLC. Uh, Once you have spotted and you have put it in your development chamber, then what you do is you allow the solvent to run through the length of your TLC plate, and then 1 centimeter or 2 centimeters from the top you stop, you remove, and then you you do the drying of the plates, and then you visualize it. And there are different ways in which you can visualize. One such way is to visualize under a UV lamp. Even simpler one which one can do in your lab is by using vapor of iodine. So you can have a beaker which has a few crystals of iodine, and because iodine sublimates, it directly gets converted into the vapor state. So you close that system, you put your TLC plate, and wherever you find your spots, that will be visible as yellow colored spots because of oxidation. Because of oxidation, iodine we know is an oxidizing agent, so it oxidizes all those analytes, and thereby you can see the spots. But the drawback is the moment you take it out and keep it out for some time, iodine again will vaporize, and then you may not be able to see. But of course you can take a picture of it and then you can store it. But this is one of the limitations. Previously people used to spray dilute solution of KMnO4. KMnO4 is an oxidizing agent, and when you do that, that stays because that doesn't vaporize. So there are different ways in which one can visualize the spots once they are separated on a TLC plate. And now this slide tells us how we calculate the RF values, which are very important, because these are the characteristics of a particular analyte under a given system, under a given conditions of mobile phase. Now, as you can see, there are number of spots which were kept, and then you are supposed to find out the distance which it has traveled. For example, this is the C spot, the spot number which is tagged as C. So this is the distance which it has traveled. This is from the center. This is from the center of this spot. So this is 0.8 centimeters. And if you want to find out the RF value, you need to find out also the distance which the solvent has traveled. And the distance which a solvent has traveled is this. That means the distance is 5 centimeters. So if you just look at this value, RF value for C component, it is 0.8 divided by 5, so it is 0.16. 0.16 is your RF value for the C component. And likewise for B component, you have for B, which is 2 centimeters, so you have 2 centimeters. Then you have A, which is 3. It is written, these are interchanged, values are interchanged here. So you can write the values of the distance which is traveled by your solute divided by the distance which the solvent travels, and then correspondingly you can obtain your RF values. So this is how one can calculate the RF values. Now these are the types of stationary phases in TLC which are now available, commercially available as well. Not as widely as silica gel, but as you can see from that when you use silica gel as your stationary phase, it can be used for all classes of or all class of compounds, which is not possible with others. Aluminum oxide, though it is not available now much, but still it can be used. It is used for basic compounds. And you have cyanophase, which is relatively more polar kind of cyanophase is a polar kind of a thing. Diol phase, which is again used for all compounds. Now this is important here. Reverse phase, RP. This is important here that you have. RP means reverse phase. Reverse phase means non-polar. So now commercially you find RP, C2, C8, C18 phases. C2 means 2 carbon chain. C8 means 8 carbons and C18 means 18 carbons, which are mm, which are being used for these compounds which you have. Because for highly polar compounds, they might simply stick on the silica gel. So in those cases, one can use reverse phase columns as well. And there are specific TLC plates which are used for isomers, for enantiomers, and those are known as chiral TLC plates, which have a chiral phase. Chiral phase, impregnated on the silica surface. They have a chiral phase which is impregnated on a silica surface, which is the stationary phase. So one can do normal separations, and one can also do chiral separations on TLC plates. They are not much in use for the simple reason that you have very good chiral stationary phases available now uh, with known chromatographic techniques, known techniques which use columns. So it is not in much use. At the same time, they are relatively expensive. Silica gel TLC plates are relatively inexpensive. I mean, one can do hundreds of sample in a box of silica gel TLC plates. So which is not the case with other techniques. So silica gel still remains one of the most is the preferred choice of TLC plates for separating different class of compounds in TLC. Now something regarding the RF values again. Uh, see, adsorption of solutes, the adsorption strength of compounds increases with increasing polarity of functional groups. Now this is in relation to the functionalities which are likely to be present in the substances which are being separated. If they have polar groups, these are the polar groups, and these are non-polar groups. And then you have something which is intermediate polar in between. So your analytes can have any of these groups. So one can find out or can understand that if your analyte doesn't move much on a TLC plate which is made up of silica gel as the stationary phase, then possibly these are the functional groups which are present in your analyte. Whereas if it moves very fast with the mobile phase, then in that case, these are the likely functional groups which are present, which doesn't allow your analyte to interact more with the polar stationary phase. So that is something regarding your the RF values which you obtain for different kinds of substances carrying different functionalities. Now, this is regarding the eluting strength. Different solvents, as I said, are now, we are at liberty to use any solvent, uh, very non-polar solvent, very polar solvents, and this the elution strength of the mobile phase is also being calculated now. And this elution strength, as you can see here, it is very low for hexane, but it is very high for ethanol and even greater for methanol and water. Water is close to 0.78, and then methanol is around 0.72. So you will find different solvents. These eluting strength, these values tell us which solvent to be used. Now, generally, if a compound is unknown, if it is completely unknown, then what would happen? Which solvent system we should select? See, the best solvent system would be for beginners when we don't know what exactly is present in your sample. Then one can always start with, say, about 7 ml of a non-polar solvent and 3 ml of a polar solvent. For example, a mixture of 7 ml of hexane and 3 ml of methanol. If you mix this and use it and then see what is the nature, what is the profile of your TLC plate, how many spots go up or how many spots remain down or how many are in between. Once you get some idea, then you can periodically keep on changing the ratios, and if something doesn't work out, then you can change the solvent itself. But now you have a list of solvents with different eluting strengths from which one can choose. Now this is what these are the eluting strengths. I mean, this is how they vary. As I said, methanol, which has a much higher eluting strength as compared to your hexane, etc. And then you have something in between chloroform and acetone. And regarding RF values, it is recommended that the RF value should be between 0.2 and 0.7. Then you call it a very good efficiency and resolution and separation in TLC. The RF values we all know can never be greater than 1, because that is how, I mean, that is the solvent role, that is the solvent front. So it will always be less than 1, because the distance traveled by the analyte divided by the distance traveled by the solvent or the moving phase of the mobile phase. So naturally it will not be more than 1. It can be 1 if something is completely unretained. If something is completely unretained on the silica surface, it is highly non-polar, then of course it might move with the moving phase. But otherwise, the TLC which we accept to be good TLC is when they have RF values between 0.2 and 0.7. And this is what, I mean, these are all experimental things which one can optimize in TLC. If you get two peaks which are very close, then what you do is you naturally try to resolve it. I mean, this is how the spots look. This is how the spots look, and on TLC plate, this is the corresponding chromatogram, which if one can visualize from this. And what you can see here is that these are somewhat merged peaks, but this is completely resolved, baseline resolved peaks. So these are though theoretical aspects, but then one needs to work with certain experimental parameters of changing the mobile phase system, changing the eluting strength, such that that separation is afforded. So one can always work on those things. So this was all about TLC, which I wanted to explain regarding TLC. Do you have anything up till now? Anyone? Richa?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Any question? I suppose these things were known to you, but still it would have been a revision for you.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Have you done TLC in third year?
Yes, sir. We have
Yes,
done.
sir.
We have done TLC.
So most of the things you have done. I'll just quickly move on to the high performance one, the version of this. This is basically the higher version of TLC. Uh, See, as I said, TLC is used for qualitative analysis only. It is not used for quantitative analysis. Now with high performance TLC, one can use this technique for qualitative, of course, and quantitative analysis. But again, at a certain price, because TLC, normal TLC, one can do everything within 5-10,000 rupees. But in HPTLC, the equipment which is available from a company called Camag costs about 11 to 15 lakhs. So you can see the drastic change in the cost when you simply try to improve the performance of TLC and thereby have an equipment called HPTLC. So now in HPTLC, what exactly happens is, what is the major difference in HPTLC and TLC? First and foremost, the particle size in that means the particle size of silica in HPTLC is 5 to 6 micrometers. Whereas in conventional TLC, which you do, it is 12, 13, 14 micrometers. So there is a difference in the particle size. Because we know smaller the particle size, better, there will be less interstitial space. So the same thing applies to planar chromatography as well. So when you reduce the particle size, naturally the efficiency increases. And second is the thickness of the stationary phase, because that will contribute to the mass transfer term in Van Dimter equation. In HPTLC, the stationary phase layer thickness is 100 micrometers. But in conventional TLC, it is from 200 to 250 micrometers. So that is the difference in the TLC and HPTLC. And because of these two and some other aspects, you find drastic change in resolution. You find drastic change in efficiency. Efficiency means you can do more number of separations in the same distance or the time which you use in TLC. So there is enhanced performance in terms of resolution and in terms of efficiency. Both are enhanced when you move from TLC to HPTLC. And one more important aspect is which is very distinct and different from TLC in HPTLC, and that is the way in which you spot your sample on the TLC plate, on the plate. In TLC, the profile was spherical. In HPTLC, it is rectangular. What is the result of having a rectangular spot? See, diffusion in a spherical spot will occur in all 360 degrees. But when you give it a shape like a rectangle, it has 4 corners. So diffusion is controlled, is minimized, or the spread is minimized because you have 4 corners. 4 corners for that spot. So this is the third thing which you do in HPTLC, that you spot your sample in a rectangular profile, not in a spherical profile as you do in TLC. So this is a very, very important, striking difference between how you perform the TLC and how you perform HPTLC. These 3 aspects, and of course the instrumentation which comes with it. See, reduced diffusion, better efficiency, and of course you can do more number of separations in a given time with the same solvent, maybe even lower solvent consumption. So the basic advantage is reduce the sample volume to about 1/10 of conventional TLC. Use the smallest possible spot size, rectangular shape instead of circular. Position the samples with great precision, and you use a superior developing technique. That means the once you spot and once you develop, then because you are going for quantitation, you need to have superior techniques to quantify that analyte as well in that given sample. Again, HPTLC again would not be in a position to help you with what are those separated analytes. No, it still cannot do it. But yes, it can tell you the number of components in a given sample, and at the same time, it can also give you the quantity, which is not possible with TLC. So these are the benefits which are derived from HPTLC when you move from TLC to HPTLC. Applications. There are several applications now. I mean, just like any other chromatography. Hello. Something went wrong. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
okay. I suppose if you are feeling tired, I'll just stop here up to this slide, applications of HPTLC. Then I'll move ahead next time when we meet on Wednesday. HPTLC, the application areas are now expanding like anything with the hyphenation as well. When you combine HPTLC with MS, but even without MS, directly only HPTLC, you find applications in pharmaceutical analysis, in analyzing several other, like food samples or pesticides, or in detecting dyes, and in metabolomics, in proteomics, in analyzing, natural products. So there are several advantages or application areas where HPTLC finds use now, and some of the salient features here, which are associated with HPTLC is, and one I would say one limitation is that it is an open system. That is the biggest problem in HPTLC. It is an open system. You have an open TLC plate. Columns are always closed, right? So you don't get to know what is there. But here you can see everything happening in front of your eyes. And since this is an open system, naturally it is prone to more interferences, atmospheric interferences, which is not the case with those techniques which employ a column. So it can handle multiple samples. It can. I mean, when you compare HPTLC with other techniques like HPLC, for example, then it is because you use a plate, a HPTLC plate, which is again relatively inexpensive compared to the column which you use in HPLC. So that way, it is relatively inexpensive when you compare it with HPLC. relatively less maintenance when you look at HPLC, and low solvent consumption. This is very important. Low solvent consumption when you compare it with HPLC. Of course, when you compare it with TLC, it has certain advantages, but then the cost of it offsets everything. But other than that, you get lot many things. You can analyze more number of samples. You require less volumes of mobile phase, and it can do quantitation as well, which is not possible with other with the TLC. So these are the some novel salient features of HPTLC. So I'll just stop here because I suppose that you may not be, because as said there are only 19-20 students now. So if you have anything to ask me, Richa, or anybody else, there are Devarshi is there, and who else is there? Anything if you want to ask me, Shreyans is there, Shruti is there, Purvi, anybody, Hetvi, Riddhi. કંઈક પૂછવાનું છે? No comments. Okay, so should I stop now? At least say yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Okay. Thank you. So I'll just stop here and we'll meet again at 10 a.m. on Wednesday. Thank you for your presence. Take care. Stay safe. God bless.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.